The Resolute, Earth's first warship, drifted silently through the vastness of space. The crew, nervous and untested in battle, gazed out into the unknown. The ship had been built in secrecy, a symbol of humanity's determination to protect itself in a galaxy filled with dangerous unknowns. Now, they were on their first mission, crossing into an area controlled by powerful alien species. The crew wasn't sure what they would find, but one thing was certain: they were about to face something beyond their understanding. Commander Elena Graves stood on the bridge, staring at the stars ahead. Her hands rested lightly on the controls as she felt the weight of responsibility. For months, the crew had trained, preparing for this very moment. They had studied the aliens, read every report, and learned everything they could about the galaxy they were entering. But nothing could fully prepare them for what lay ahead. In the distance, a faint signal was picked up, an alien transmission. It was strange, distorted, but clear enough to indicate that they weren't alone. "Get ready," Elena ordered. "We might have company soon." The crew snapped to attention. Tension rippled through the air as the Resolute sailed deeper into the alien-controlled territory. This was not just an unknown space. It was the heart of an empire that had conquered countless worlds. The aliens had never seen humans before, and the Resolute was humanity's first step into their domain. The ship was equipped with advanced weapons and technology, but still, it was a gamble. Elena knew that if the aliens discovered them, they wouldn't hesitate to attack. The unknown stretched out in front of them like a vast ocean, and the crew was sailing straight into it, unsure if they would ever return. As the crew monitored the alien transmissions, something strange happened. The signal grew stronger, and then, out of nowhere, a fleet of alien ships appeared on their sensors. These ships were massive, their designs unlike anything humanity had ever seen. Their sleek, dark shapes loomed ominously in the distance. The Resolute was still far from the fleet, but the aliens had detected their presence. The tension in the air grew thick as everyone on the bridge braced themselves. They had been detected, and now they were the target. "Incoming," yelled the communications officer. The bridge crew scrambled to action. The Resolute was a warship, yes, but this was their first real test. Elena's mind raced, trying to calculate their best move. Should they retreat, or should they prepare for a fight? There was no going back now. The aliens had already seen them, and they wouldn't let a human warship wander through their space unchallenged. Elena's voice cut through the chaos. "Prepare for combat, all hands to battle stations." The sound of alarms filled the ship, signaling to the crew that they were about to face their first real battle. The aliens' fleet was closing in. There was no time to hesitate. The ship's weapon systems hummed to life as the crew took their positions. They weren't ready for this kind of fight. Not yet, but they had no choice. The Resolute had the advantage of surprise, and they would have to use it. The aliens, however, weren't afraid. From the moment they saw the human ship, they thought of it as nothing more than a curiosity. They had seen countless ships before, and none of them posed a real threat. The alien commanders watched from their ships, amused by the small, strange craft they now faced. Humans, they thought, were weak. Their technology was crude compared to what the aliens had, and the idea that a human ship could challenge them seemed laughable. As the two fleets drew closer, the air crackled with anticipation. The Resolute was outnumbered, with only a handful of ships in their fleet compared to the alien armada. The crew of the Resolute could feel the weight of the moment. This was no longer just a mission to explore. It was a test of humanity's strength, of their ability to survive in a galaxy far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. The first alien ship launched its attack without warning. Blinding beams of energy shot through space, narrowly missing the Resolute. The crew was thrown off balance, but Elena's voice remained calm, steady. "Evade," she ordered. The Resolute twisted and turned, dodging the first wave of attacks. But the aliens didn't stop. They kept coming, each ship firing relentlessly at the human warship. The Resolute returned fire, its weapons lighting up the dark expanse of space. The aliens were stunned as they saw the human ship's weapons striking their ships with surprising force. They hadn't expected this. The Resolute wasn't just dodging and firing. It was fighting back with a fierceness they had not anticipated. For a moment, it seemed like the battle could go either way. The crew was fighting with everything they had, but it was clear that they were still learning on the fly. The aliens, however, were skilled, and their weapon systems were advanced. The fight wasn't going to be easy. The Resolute's shields flickered under the pressure of the alien fire, and the ship's hull groaned under the strain. There was no turning back now. This wasn't just a skirmish. It was the first real test of humanity's strength in space. As the battle raged on, Elena realized one terrifying truth. The aliens had no idea who they were really dealing with. They thought the Resolute was just another ship in a galaxy full of weak civilizations. They had no idea that this warship, this ship built by humans, was something they had never encountered before. Humanity had spent years preparing for this moment, and the aliens were about to find out just how deadly Earth could be. The Resolute wasn't just another ship. It was humanity's message to the galaxy. And the aliens, for all their power, weren't ready for what was coming. The Resolute continued to fight back, its weapons lighting up the void of space with brilliant flashes. Commander Elena Graves stood firm on the bridge, her heart racing as the alien ships closed in. The Resolute wasn't just fighting for survival. It was fighting to prove humanity's place in the galaxy. Every blast from their weapons felt like a statement. Earth wasn't a weak, vulnerable target. They had the power to fight, and they were not going to let anyone take that away from them. On the alien side, the initial shock began to fade. The aliens had underestimated humanity, thinking they could simply crush the Resolute without a second thought. But as the battle continued, something started to shift. The alien fleet, once so confident in its superiority, began to feel the pressure. The human warship wasn't backing down, and its weapons were causing significant damage. Alien ships exploded in bursts of light as the Resolute's precision strikes found their marks. The humans were resourceful, using every advantage they had, every new tactic, every weapon, and every bit of training they had worked so hard for. The aliens, realizing they were not facing a simple target, decided to change tactics. They pulled back slightly, regrouping for a more coordinated strike. They were no longer just trying to overpower the Resolute with brute force. They were now strategizing, using their advanced technology to launch more deadly and focused attacks. Their ships moved in synchronized patterns, launching waves of energy blasts that were much harder to dodge. The Resolute's shields began to flicker more frequently, struggling to keep up with the incoming fire. "Shields at 40%, Captain," the tactical officer shouted. Elena clenched her fists, unwilling to let the situation slip out of control. The crew was doing their best, but the alien fleet was relentless. They had numbers and experience on their side. The Resolute was still a new ship, its crew still finding their rhythm in real combat. But Elena refused to let the battle slip into despair. She had trained for this, and she would see it through to the end. "We're not backing down," she shouted. "Hold steady, everyone. We can still win this." The crew rallied behind her. Each person on the bridge pushed forward, working together to keep the Resolute in the fight. The ship's engines rode as they sped up, weaving through the alien fleet, avoiding the oncoming attacks as best they could. But the aliens were closing in fast, their ships moving like a swarm of deadly insects. It was clear the battle was turning in their favor. Just as the Resolute seemed to be on the edge of defeat, the crew received an unexpected message. A small fleet of ships had appeared on their radar. These ships weren't part of the alien armada. They were human. "Fleet incoming," the communications officer announced. "It's the reinforcements we were waiting for." A sense of relief washed over the crew. The reinforcements were their last hope. The small fleet, which had been trailing behind the Resolute, arrived just in time to make a difference. Their arrival shifted the balance of power. The alien fleet, not expecting additional human ships, was forced to divide its attention. The new human fleet began firing upon the alien ships from the rear, catching them off guard. The aliens hesitated for a moment, unsure of how to respond to this new threat. The humans, sensing the moment of weakness, launched a counterattack. They fired on the enemy ships with everything they had, using every weapon on the Resolute and the reinforcements to break through the alien defenses. Elena watched as the tide of battle began to shift in humanity's favor. The alien fleet, once overwhelming in size and strength, was now faltering. The Resolute's crew had proven themselves, and their reinforcements had given them the edge they needed to push back. The alien ships, damaged and confused, began to retreat, realizing that they couldn't defeat humanity as easily as they had hoped. But as the battle seemed to come to a close, Elena knew this was just the beginning. The retreating alien ships were not completely destroyed. They were regrouping, no doubt sending messages to their higher command about the unexpected threat they had encountered. The humans had won this round, but the galaxy was a vast place, and there were more alien forces out there, waiting for the chance to attack. Elena, the communications officer said, breaking the silence. "We've got to move quickly. We can't stay here. The alien fleet is calling for reinforcements." Elena took a deep breath. She felt the weight of what had just happened. They had survived the first battle, but they had also made a powerful enemy. The aliens would return, and next time, they would be better prepared. "We're not running away," Elena said firmly. "We're going to make sure they know who we are. Set course for their command center." With that, the Resolute turned, heading into the unknown once more. This was just the beginning of humanity's war for survival. The aliens weren't ready for the human warship, but now they knew the cost of underestimating humanity. And they wouldn't make the same mistake again. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. As the Resolute drifted through the blackness of space, Commander Elena Graves couldn't shake the feeling that the battle was far from over. They had survived their first encounter with the alien fleet, but the cost had been high. The Resolute was damaged, and the crew had pushed their limits just to get through the day. As they headed toward the alien command center, Elena knew that the battle for survival was only just beginning. What the crew didn't know was that their warship held secrets that could turn the tide in humanity's favor. Elena gathered the senior officers in the war room to discuss the next steps. They had won the first round, but there was no illusion about how difficult the war ahead would be. The aliens would return with greater numbers, and this time they would be prepared. The Resolute was their only hope, but it was still a ship under construction, still being tested. If they were going to survive, they would need to tap into its full potential. The ship had been designed with technology beyond anything the aliens had, but not all of it had been activated yet. The humans didn't fully understand how it worked, but they were about to learn. "Captain, we've analyzed the data from the battle," said Lieutenant Hawkins, the ship's chief engineer. "And I think we've only scratched the surface of the Resolute's capabilities. There are systems we haven't even turned on yet, systems that could give us a major advantage. The problem is, we don't fully know what some of them do." Elena looked at Hawkins, her mind racing. The Resolute had been built using technology from alien ships captured in the past, and while they had reverse-engineered much of it, some systems had been kept hidden or classified. Now, those hidden systems might be the key to humanity's survival, but turning them on without knowing the full scope of their power could be risky. "We don't have the luxury of time to figure it all out," Elena said, making a quick decision. "Activate everything we can. We need all the power we can get." Hawkins nodded, though his face showed the strain of uncertainty. He wasn't sure what would happen when they turned on these systems, but there was no time for second-guessing. The alien fleet wasn't waiting. As the crew worked tirelessly to bring the Resolute's systems online, Elena paced the bridge. The silence between the crew members was deafening, the weight of the unknown pressing heavily on everyone's minds. They didn't know exactly what the new systems would do, But Elena had a gut feeling that the Resolute was more than just a warship. It was a weapon of unimaginable power. "Commander," Lieutenant Hawkins' voice broke through the silence. "We've activated the advanced energy weapons. They're ready." Elena's pulse quickened. She knew that humanity's best chance was to strike quickly, to use their technology to catch the aliens off guard again. If they were going to defeat the alien fleets, they had to exploit every advantage. "Prepare to fire," Elena ordered. The crew made final adjustments, and as the alien command center loomed ahead on the radar, the Resolute powered up its newly activated weaponry. The ship hummed with energy, a deep, resonating vibration that could be felt in the bones of everyone aboard. The power systems surged as the weapons aligned, their energy sources pulsing with immense potential. Elena knew that one shot from these weapons could change the course of the battle. She just hoped that they could get close enough to fire. The alien command center, a massive fortress of ships and stations, sat in the heart of an asteroid field. It was heavily defended, a place where the aliens would expect to be safe from any attack. But the Resolute was unlike anything they had ever encountered. Elena set the ship's course, weaving through the asteroid field at full speed, her crew's hands flying over their controls, adjusting the course and firing the engines at the right moments to avoid incoming asteroid impacts. "Ready to fire," said the weapons officer, her voice steady despite the high pressure. Elena's grip tightened on the armrest of her chair. The tension in the air was thick. She could feel the eyes of the crew on her, waiting for her command. "Fire," Elena said, her voice calm, but with the steel of someone who knew the stakes. Now. The Resolute unleashed a blast of energy so powerful that it lit up the surrounding asteroid field like daylight. The beam shot straight at the alien command center, piercing through shields and armor as though they weren't even there. The impact was cataclysmic. The alien ships guarding the command center exploded in flashes of light, their remains drifting into the void of space. The alien command station, once thought to be impenetrable, crumbled under the force of the Resolute's new weapon. The crew erupted in cheers, but Elena remained focused. This victory was only temporary. The alien fleet would retaliate, and they were still far from secure. The Resolute had dealt a devastating blow, but Elena knew that the aliens would learn from their defeat and come back stronger. "Nice shot," Hawkins said, a rare smile on his face. "We can't afford to relax," Elena replied. "This was just one battle. We need to be ready for the next one." As the Resolute moved into position, the crew began analyzing the results of the attack. The alien command center had been severely damaged, but it wasn't entirely destroyed. The alien forces would undoubtedly send reinforcements, and the Resolute would have to face them head-on. Elena could feel the weight of what lay ahead. They had just discovered the true potential of their warship, but they had also made a powerful enemy. The galaxy was vast, and the aliens were out there, watching, waiting, and learning from every move the humans made. The Resolute had proven itself capable of great things, but now it was time to use that power wisely. Elena knew that humanity had a chance, maybe even a fighting chance, but the war was far from over. The Resolute stood in the heart of enemy space, its systems fully activated and humming with energy. Commander Elena Graves stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the monitors in front of her. The crew had dealt a massive blow to the alien command center, but she knew that their victory was only temporary. The alien fleet, though reeling from the surprise attack, was already regrouping, and they wouldn't make the same mistakes again. Elena could feel the pressure mounting. The next battle would be more brutal, and this time, the Resolute would have to face the full force of the alien armada. "Reinforcements are en route," Lieutenant Hawkins said from his station, his voice tinged with exhaustion, but also a sense of urgency. "But we need to move fast. The aliens are preparing a counterattack. Their larger ships are gathering strength." Elena nodded, her mind racing. She could already hear the familiar hum of the alien fleet as it moved in the distance. The battle had shifted from a skirmish to something far more dangerous. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about sending a message to the galaxy. The aliens had underestimated humanity, but now they would learn that Earth would not fall without a fight. The Resolute might be outnumbered, but the humans had something the aliens didn't: determination. Set course for their main fleet, Elena ordered. We hit them hard and fast. We can't afford to let them regroup. The crew scrambled into action. The ship's engines rode to life as they moved towards the alien armada. Elena's mind raced with calculations. The Resolute was fast, but even with its advanced weapons, it was still a small ship compared to the massive alien fleet. The odds were against them. Still, there was no turning back now. She had made a promise to her crew that they would fight until the end, no matter the odds. As they closed in on the enemy fleet, Elena could see the enormity of the situation. Hundreds of alien ships, far larger and more numerous than anything humanity had ever encountered, filled the space before them. It was a sight that would have struck fear into anyone else. But Elena held steady. She had trained for moments like this. The crew of the Resolute had survived the first battle, and they could survive this one too. The tension on the bridge was palpable as they entered firing range. Elena's heart pounded in her chest. This time, the Resolute's weapon systems would be pushed to their limits. They needed to create chaos, throw the aliens off balance, make them doubt their superiority. The humans had already surprised the alien fleet once, and they would do it again. Ready all weapons, Elena commanded. Activate the energy pulse cannons. Target the flagship. The crew moved swiftly, the ship's weapon systems locking onto the alien flagship. It was a massive structure, far larger than the Resolute and bristling with weapons. If they could take out the flagship, it would cripple the alien fleet's command and throw their forces into disarray. Target locked, said the weapons officer. Firing in 3, 2, 1. The Resolute unleashed its full power. A brilliant beam of energy shot out, cutting through space and slamming into the flagship's shields. The alien ship shuddered, its shields flickering under the assault. The crew could see the alien ship's hull begin to crack under the pressure. The beam had done its job. It had shaken the alien fleet to its core. Direct hit, the weapons officer shouted. Elena smiled, but the victory was short-lived. The alien fleet retaliated almost instantly, launching wave after wave of energy blasts toward the Resolute. The ship rocked as the blasts hit, and the crew scrambled to maintain control. The Resolute's shields flickered dangerously as they struggled to absorb the incoming fire. Shields at 20%. The tactical officer reported. We can't take much more of this. Elena gritted her teeth. She knew they had to push forward. The alien fleet was retaliating, but if they could hold on just a little longer, they could finish what they had started. This was their chance to break the aliens' confidence once and for all. Brace for impact, Elena shouted. The Resolute swerved to avoid an incoming blast, but it wasn't enough. The ship rocked again, and this time the damage was worse. Warning lights flashed across the bridge, and alarms blared in their ears. The hull groaned under the strain of the attacks. But Elena refused to give up. She couldn't. She had to lead her crew through this, no matter the cost. Damage report, Elena said, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. Multiple hull breaches in the aft section, Hawkins reported. We've lost power to several systems. We're losing air pressure in some areas. The Resolute was taking heavy damage, but the crew wasn't backing down. They were working around the clock to make repairs while continuing to fight. Elena's eyes scanned the battle, focusing on the alien ships. They were still retreating, but not quickly enough. The battle was far from over. Target their engines, Elena ordered. If we can disable their engines, we can stop them from escaping. The crew sprang into action, redirecting their weapons to hit the engines of the alien ships. The Resolute fired with precision, each blast aimed at the weak points of the enemy ships. The alien fleet began to stagger, their ships now struggling to maintain their formation. Enemy fleet is breaking apart, the tactical officer reported. They're retreating, Commander. Elena let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. The battle was over, for now. The alien fleet had been pushed back, their forces crippled, but Elena knew this wouldn't be the last time they encountered the alien forces. They had made a powerful enemy, and the aliens would be back, stronger and more determined. Stay alert, Elena said, her voice unwavering. We've won this battle, but the war is far from over. Prepare for what comes next. The Resolute had fought valiantly, and its crew had proven their strength. But Elena knew that in the vast expanse of space, their journey was only just beginning. The aliens would return, but humanity would be ready. The aftermath of the battle was quiet. The Resolute floated among the wreckage of the alien fleet, its hull damaged, but still intact. The crew, exhausted and battered, had fought with everything they had, and for now, they had secured a victory. But Commander Elena Graves knew that the alien forces would regroup and return. This was only the beginning of a long war for humanity's survival. The bridge was unusually still as the crew worked on repairs and systems checks. The tension in the air was palpable. Though they had won, the crew knew that the real fight had just begun. Elena stood at the helm, watching the remains of the alien ships drifting in space. The fleet had retreated, but they hadn't been defeated. They had been forced to retreat, yes, but they had learned valuable lessons, and they would be back, stronger and better prepared. Status report, Elena said, her voice calm but firm. She needed to know the extent of the damage to the Resolute. Damage control teams are on it, Commander, Lieutenant Hawkins replied, his voice hoarse from the strain of the battle. We've patched up most of the critical systems, but it's going to take time to fully repair everything. Shields are down to 30%, and we've lost some of the secondary weapon systems. Can we still move? Elena asked, the urgency of their situation not lost on her. For now, yes, Hawkins said. But we can't afford to take another hit like that. We're vulnerable. Elena nodded grimly. They had won, but the price had been steep. The alien fleet would be back, and they had to be ready. There was no time to rest. Prepare the crew for the next phase of the mission. We need to stay on the move, and we need to get the Resolute fully operational again. As Hawkins and the crew got to work, Elena turned her attention to the larger picture. This wasn't just about their survival. It was about sending a message to the galaxy. The aliens had underestimated humanity before, but now they knew that Earth was not an easy target. The Resolute had proven itself capable of holding its ground, but humanity had to keep evolving, keep adapting to the threat. There was no room for complacency. Elena's thoughts were interrupted by a communication from the reinforcements. The fleet that had arrived just in time during the last battle. Their presence had turned the tide, and now they were the key to humanity's survival. But they couldn't afford to rely solely on them. They needed to build their strength, develop new tactics, and continue to push forward. The war wasn't just about fighting one battle. It was about the survival of the human race. Commander, we're receiving a transmission from the reinforcements, the communications officer said, breaking her thoughts. Elena nodded and gestured for them to open the channel. A familiar face appeared on the screen, a fellow commander, Captain Darius King, who had led the fleet that had arrived just in time to assist in the battle. His face was grim, but there was a sense of determination in his eyes. Elena, Captain King said, his voice low, we've got a problem. The alien fleet might have retreated for now, but their command structure is still intact. They've already regrouped and are calling in more forces. We've received intel that they've activated their backup fleets from deep within their territory. They're coming, and they're coming with everything they've got. Elena's heart sank. She had known this wasn't over, but hearing it confirmed hit harder than she had expected. The aliens weren't done. They were mobilizing for a full-scale war. How soon? Elena asked, trying to keep her voice steady. We estimate a few weeks at most, Captain King replied. They're bringing in reinforcements from multiple sectors. It's going to be a full-scale offensive. Elena paused for a moment, weighing their options. The Resolute might have the firepower, but they couldn't do this alone. They needed every advantage they could get. All right, Elena said finally. We'll need to hit their supply lines, disrupt their reinforcements. If we can weaken their resources before the main assault, we might stand a chance. King nodded. I agree. We'll do what we can, but we'll need your ship in the front lines. Your crew is experienced now. They know how to fight. Elena's mind raced. There was no question about it. They would have to take the fight directly to the alien forces. The Resolute was humanity's best weapon, but it couldn't fight alone. It needed allies, it needed support, and it needed to be fully repaired. Keep us updated, Darius, Elena said. We'll be ready. As the transmission ended, Elena turned back to the bridge, her mind focused on the task ahead. They had won a major victory, but that was just one battle in a much larger war. She could feel the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. The fate of humanity rested on their ability to fight back, to keep pushing forward, even when the odds were against them. Lieutenant Hawkins, what's the status on those repairs? Elena asked, her voice firm. We're making progress, Commander, Hawkins replied. But it's going to take some time to get the Resolute fully functional again. I don't care about time, Elena said, her eyes flashing with determination. We're not backing down. We move out in 48 hours. Make sure we're ready. The crew nodded, the resolve in their eyes mirroring her own. The battle had just begun, and the Resolute would be their spearhead. Elena knew that the aliens were strong, but humanity had something they couldn't understand. A fighting spirit that wouldn't be extinguished, no matter how overwhelming the odds. As the crew went back to work, Elena stared out at the stars. The galaxy was vast, and the war ahead would be long and brutal, but humanity had proven something in the last battle. They were not to be underestimated. The Resolute was just the beginning of what they could achieve. The aliens had made a mistake by thinking they could crush Earth. They had underestimated humanity's ability to fight, and now humanity would show them just how powerful they could be. The war for survival had begun, and the humans weren't backing down.